During my adolescence, although I was popular among my peers, I did not actually talk to them much, and this was mainly because of two reasons. Firstly, I was lacking the ability to understand others, especially when standing with a group of friends on the playground back when I was in school, and so I spent a majority of my time and energy just guessing what people were saying and asking for clarity on the meaning of words, slang, jokes, and even sarcasm, more often than actually talking to them to form bonds and relationships between my peers. And so when school ended at the end of the day and on the weekend, I never had anyone to hang around with after school. This, alongside my inability to understand or even remember the conversations due to my poor memory, prevented me for a long time to develop my own thoughts, ideas, personality, and even identity. I only grew popular because when I was 7 years old, I moved from Canada to France, and also at 12 years old when I moved from France to the UK. This meant that in school I was no longer a normal local kid, but the mysterious foreigner from a faraway land, which was quiet, but tall, strong, and athletic. My second reason was my inability to express myself verbally to others in a coherent manner of what I was thinking about in my mind. From when I was a baby, I had developmental issues which delayed my ability to speak until I was 3 years old. What this meant in the long term, though, was that my ability to speak always fell behind others as I grew up. And alongside my short-term memory problems meant that sometimes I would forget what I was talking about mid-sentence and then stop panicking about remembering what I was talking about, halting the conversation entirely when given the opportunity to speak. If I did complete a sentence, I would still use simplistic language since my vocabulary and the amount of nouns I could remember was extremely limited, and this in turn prevented me from explaining myself to others, including on what and why I needed help when speaking, reading, and learning in class, which ultimately led to frustration, confusion, and isolation. This is why after university in 2016, even though I had experience in other fields, I chose to work in the factory again as an assembler. Previously worked in 2012 before university. I needed an environment with as little human interaction as possible, somewhere I could be placed and left to work, so that my mind could finally be left to rest and allow myself to think. After working for a while, my mind had plenty of time to wander, ponder, reflect, and rationalize about ideas and concepts forming in my mind from moment to moment. And this slowly allowed myself to mold into the person I wanted to become in the future. When needing to talk to others, though, in the factory, most of which were older than me, I noticed that years of toil and repetitive work have allowed their behavior to become complacent, submissive, obedient, and predictable. A small talk with a person about their life at home was enough to understand their view on the world, work, and what was defined as leisure. But when I started to talk to them about my ideas and different views on the world, a spark would reignite in their eyes, and you could see, even for just a moment, a curiosity that started to emerge from them, as if dormant for weeks at a time between holidays. Over time, and especially when working for a large company with hundreds of employees coming and going, I always found a new face to talk to when pondering about new ideas and reaffirming beliefs I was conflicted on. As these ideas and beliefs became more concrete over time, I began to research online to further solidify them and see if there was anything more I could learn. The great thing about working in manufacturing is that although my body is preoccupied with work, almost none of my mind is. And over time the work is done almost automatically, as if driving a car, and so I could really relax and delve deep, as if in a meditative state, into subjects I never had the time to focus on previously. I am a slow reader, so I could never really finish a book in any reasonable amount of time. But now with audiobooks and services such as Audible, it was much easier to just sit there and listen to an audiobook. and absorb the information instead of spending all my time just listening to music. When I first started using Audible, the first books I listened to were from biographies of people I read about at university while researching for my dissertation on electrically propelled aircraft back in 2015-2016, which includes Henry Ford, Nikola Tesla, Michael Faraday, and Isaac Newton. After reading many non-fiction books, I decided to go into fiction books to see if any of them would be any good in audio format. The first was a Star Wars book called Phasma, since the movies were soon to be released and there was still excitement about the movies. And what I heard when listening to this book was simply amazing. Even though only one voice actor was used to voice everyone, they performed with enthusiasm and gave the characters each a unique personality. And most of all, a complete soundtrack of all songs and sound effects familiar to the movies was playing alongside the voice narration. Once you start listening to an audiobook like this, the world around you disappears as you can clearly imagine the spaceships landing, the doors opening as steam escapes the hydraulic pistons powering the ramp, the footsteps of the characters as they disembark the ship, and the blast of fire echoing in the background as they are fired at from the enemy in the distance. But all is lost as the chapter ends. I take my noise-cancelling headphones off and discover I am still working in a factory, in a pointless minimum wage job. Sometimes I would get a bit too lost during these audiobooks and could not focus on work, so I mixed it up by looking up videos on YouTube, by only listening to the videos as I could not watch them while at work, and also to podcasts as well. As the variety of content I consumed began to grow, so did my ideas, and my mind would start thinking of these ideas in a more specific way, with greater clarity and attention to detail in them. Hi, my name is Louie Musset, and I want to thank you all for making it to the end of my first video. This video is part of a video series I'm producing completely on my own, and it is called Louie's Adventure Series. And I already have ideas for 4 adventures so far, where each adventure will have multiple seasons within them. Adventure 1 is called My Journey to Understanding Knowledge, and its first season is called Discovering Who I Am. I have already written up Season 1 and am well into writing Season 2 as well, which will simply be called Epistemology. Currently I have 0 subscribers, so now is your chance to be the first to join me on my adventure series by tapping the red button below. Eventually I'll make standalone videos as well for YouTube on a variety of topics, mostly my hobbies, that of which I will also be writing and blogging about on my website, which you can find at louiemusset.com. Make sure to comment down below to let me know on your thoughts on the video, future suggestions, and constructive criticism for improvements in the production process. And remember, the goal to learning does not just involve knowing what, but also understanding why. Thanks again. We will see where my thoughts take me in episode 2, Capturing My Thoughts.